Continuing from the previous episode 2585. When they came to the hidden peaks at the entrance of Qinglong Cave, they didn't find anything weird for a while, and the two could only walk aimlessly. After a short while, the two people's exploration and search were fruitless, and finally they came to a deep valley with very strong energy in the mountain peak. The entire mountain has been inspected by me. It seems that only the terrain here is relatively special, and the energy here is the most concentrated in the entire mountain. Standing above the deep valley, Xiao Yan looked around. This abyss was like a bottomless abyss, and the shape was like a huge basin. At this time, Xiao Yan and the two were hovering at the entrance. Around the valley basin, there are countless medicinal materials growing everywhere, and the dense energy vaguely forms a mist, which seems to be covering up its entrance. Yaoshang, the energy of heaven and earth, could this be the entrance to the Four Elephants Cave? Hearing Xiao Yan's explanation, Kai Lin's brows stretched slightly, but unfortunately the power of 10 colors in her body did not transmit any fluctuations. Although this is a treasure land of medicinal materials, there seems to be a lot of evil things in the unknown world below. The huge soul power made Xiao Yan keenly aware of some subtle fluctuations under the entrance of the basin, and his eyes slowly showed a sense of horror, and even his expression became strange. This kind of strange place is the first time Xiao Yan has encountered. It not only restrains and suppresses his own power, but even the entire space is full of blade nature, and it seems that it is difficult to destroy it with one person's power. Go! The two looked at each other, and after a while, without any hesitation, their bodies surged directly into the endless abyss of the valley basin. Just poured into it, a force of darkness spread out like a tidal wave, completely shrouding the bodies of the two, and a weightless touch pierced the heartstrings of the two. His pupils shrank slightly. Xiao Yan took Kailin and jumped forward, grabbing some objects in this space with his palms, and only then stabilized his figure. Looking around, in front of the two of them, a scene of steep cliffs came into view. Here, it seems that even the many powers in Xiao Yan's body have temporarily failed, except for the dragon blood and dragon ** transformation in the body. A gentle fluctuation slightly blooms. This is a Jedi. Get out first. Kaylin's pretty face was filled with a serious look, and she couldn't help but shrink her palms slightly, reminding Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan's eyes moved, and with the help of the dim light in this void, he suddenly discovered that this was a cliff and mountain peak. On the steep cliffs, there are countless bones and gravel residues. Obviously those things were left here by some strong people who broke into the Four Elephants Cave without authorization. This space has imprisoned all the power in our body. As time goes by, once the vitality in our body is swallowed up by it, we will all fall here completely. Go! Kai Lin's expression was dignified, and there was a domineering 10-color bloodline power on his skin, slowly blooming with a brilliant color, as if he wanted to use the 3 major impulses generated by the bloodline power to escape from here. It's really a Jedi here, but it's not without a solution. Look! The next moment, Xiao Yan firmly grasped a rock above the cliff with one hand, and raised the fingers of the other hand to point towards the bottom of the cliff. The bottom of the cliff is very dark, as if it has some terrifying power to devour all things, but at this time there is a protruding rock, which is particularly eye-catching. This is the gate of the palace? Kaylin's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, and with the help of the bloodline power of the 10-color power in her body, she seemed to be able to see an ancient gate covered with cyan vines from the cracks in the rock. But how do we get to the bottom? From here to the rock below. At least there is a distance of 100 meters. Coupled with the strange power of this space, such a powerful impact is extremely destructive. Kai Lin couldn't help shaking her head. It was obvious that the current scene was full of crises. There are countless opportunities in these 4 elephant caves, but the degree of danger is also terrifying. Trust me. Close your eyes and go. Xiao Yan carefully observed the surrounding cliffs for a while, and then checked his soul power again and found that there was no other strange aura, so he let go of the rock and wrapped his arms around Kaylin's slender waist tightly. Fall towards the bottom. The speed is extremely fast, and the sound of breaking wind along the way is actually a little bit splitting the long skirt on Kaylin's body. Under the long skirt, there is a looming snow white. The piercing sound of breaking wind resounded, and the countless black chi around the cliffs and peaks slowly approached the two of them, and the breath contained in them was greedy and fierce. Crack! At the critical moment, Xiao Yan suddenly stretched out his hand and smashed directly on the rock at the bottom of the mountain. A burst of powder dust poured out, but some of the remaining solid rocks were grabbed by his palm, and the bodies of the two were completely stabilized. Go down. Xiao Yan snorted coldly, and with a flick of his palm, he directly sent Kalen's body into the void under the rock. It's the weirdest place here. Xiao Yan, you come quickly. There seems to be something on this portal. Xiao Yan's palm was flushed red, but the impact of the 100-meter fall collided with the rock, but did not leave any injuries. Now Xiao Yan's physical strength has reached a whole new level. The suppressed aura still continued. Xiao Yan's figure swayed and appeared under the rock at the same time. Below the rock, this is a cave area of dozens of meters. The cave is full of moss. Looking up, a cyan portal like a cliff embedded in the cliff appears in the eyes of the two. Simple and strange, this is what Xiao Yan felt when he first saw the past. It seems that after opening this door, a brand new time will come. These vines do not seem to grow savagely, but are deliberately surrounded by people on the portal. Such a creature seems to be a bit like a dragon. Kalen's voice resounded in this area, but Xiao Yan, who was beside him, suddenly woke up. I'm afraid this is one of the entrances to the Four Elephants Cave, the entrance to the Qinglong Cave. I know how this door cracked. Step back a little. Xiao Yan clapped his hands and applauded, and then the power of dragon blood quietly poured out, actually forming a miniature golden dragon shadow on his body. Boom! The golden dragon shadow just appeared, carrying a terrifying aura that dominates the world, and a dragon roar spread out to its portal. Btth. The ancient portal was originally indestructible, and even the cyan vines slowly formed a dormant dragon, but unfortunately, under the shock of the power of the king of the dragon family, the Golden Dragon King, it was self-defeating. Go! The figures of the two fell into it in an instant. At the moment when they just poured in, the invisible suppression on the body actually disappeared cleanly, as if they had entered a special space. The space behind the entrance of Qinglong Cave is probably the Four Elephants Cave. Continuing from the previous episode 2586. This space is dark, and the gloomy wind gushes out everywhere, even mixed with a strange and sharp gloomy sound, like a gloomy spirit in hell, wailing endlessly. Darkness, ashes, layers of emptiness, there is no trace of life in the whole world. Only the utter silence that is almost at its extreme is the whole picture of this world. It seems, this is the so-called Four Elephant Cave, but this world is somewhat inconsistent with the second strange place in countless legends in the demon world. Entering the Four Elephants Cave, although his strength has returned to normal, his soul strength seems to be limited by some ancient power and is almost useless, which makes Xiao Yan frown. That monster, I don't know where it is now. The quasi-7th level reincarnation level strength is not comparable to the half-step 7 level reincarnation level. It seems that it is good to do some preparations. In Xiao Yan's body, the formations and holy flames surged together, ready to deal with emergencies around him at any time. What is that? When Xiao Yan acted like this, the Kalen jade hand on the side quietly raised, pointing to a surging black air mass in front of the two of them. A massive black aura instantly enveloped them in front of them, and the aura and the black clouds rolled endlessly, as if there were some living creatures in it. Snake monster? This is the 3 evil spirit snakes? After a while, Kalen's whole body was covered with a layer of 10-color power, and she could not help but exclaimed by recognizing the creature hidden in the black air mass at a glance. I saw a 3-headed demon snake tumbling in the black cloud layer. Its body was 100 meters long and short, and its body was surging. It turned out to be like a black cloud layer moving slowly, pressing the surroundings into darkness. Due to the dim light, you can vaguely see the 3-headed monster snakes dormant in the black clouds. The snake scales around the body are covered with the sky-high monster energy, and 3 huge snake heads, each with dozens of the size of the 3 pairs of scarlet snake eyes, is like 6 lanterns, moving in the gloomy void, bursting with blood-red monsters, which is extremely terrifying. The fire is coming. The strength of this monster has just reached the level of samsara, but Xiao Yan did not hold back. The majestic flame power slanted out, and easily imprisoned his entire body. Tear. The 3-headed monsters seemed to be under some kind of threat. The huge snake head shook, swallowing the snake letter, and gusts of gloomy wind suddenly swept out from the 3 giant mouths, carrying a gloomy poison, eroding everything around. Xiao Yan. Wait, It seems, to guide us in the direction we're going. After all, Qinglong has the peak bloodline of snake monsters, so he could easily sense some of the latter's thoughts. It seems that this guy is also a creature in the Four Elephants Cave, and the brief fight just now convinced him. Let's go and have a look. The two looked at each other, their speed skyrocketed, and they chased away directly in the direction in which the three monsters fled. Susu, is someone finally here? At this moment, in the depths of the dark void, there was an ancient and turbid voice that quietly spoke. This is... When the three-headed monster moved to the entrance of a dark cave, it suddenly stopped, the whole body quietly escaped from the air, and lay quietly on the ground, with a look of respect in the snake's eyes. It seems that there is some kind of powerful creature hidden in this cave. Btth2. Xiao Yan and the two looked at each other, one after the other, swept into the cave directly. Outside the gloomy cave, there was a sudden loud noise, and in the narrow passage around the cave, boulders and dust kept falling, unexpectedly mixed with a terrifying aura, which slowly shook Xiao Yan and the two of them. This attack was sent by the three monsters. It seems to make us withdraw, and there are some terrifying creatures hidden inside. The huge sound shook the entire cave, and the momentum was astonishing. Qinglong seemed to sense some thoughts in the latter's heart, and couldn't help but say, "The monster we were looking for should exist here. I have observed along the way. This is the depth of the entire Four Elephants Cave. If expected, this is the core. Although the cave is narrow, it is bottomless." The two walked hand in hand to the depths of the cave, but the further down the cave, the more dignified the gloomy atmosphere became. Feel a touch of unease. It seems that at the bottom of the cave, there are some peerless beasts waiting for them. Devouring. During the movement along the way, Xiao Yan released the fire of holy flame slightly to illuminate the path forward, and then a dark swallowing power filled his body. He did not dare to approach Xiao Yan at all. After all, that devouring power is enough to devour everything, and the weak creatures in the cave are terrified and can only retreat. Walking like this, it was close to a quarter of an hour, and the line of sight in front of the two became wider. It seemed that they had reached the end of the cave, and a whole new world poured into their eyes. At the end of the cave, there seemed to be a shattered prison, but at this time there was no coercion, and Xiao Yan and the two easily crossed. The world in front of him was a scene of 100 jong-sized cave area, with a fist-sized luminous pearl floating above it in the center, illuminating the entire world. On the edge of the edge wall, there is a sarcophagus that has been sealed for a long time. The sarcophagus is engraved with countless complex patterns, which seems to be suppressing certain creatures. Around the sarcophagus, there are 4 ancient and sacred stone statues standing quietly. The 4 stone statues correspond to the 4 mythical beasts of the Qinglong, White Tiger, Suzaku, and Xuanwu respectively, and they looked up and looked around again, but found that on the walls of the cave, there were ancient and heavy blood-colored lines, quietly carved on them, and they seemed to form a continuation of each other. An extremely complex formation was added with the stone statues of the 4 great beasts, as if suppressing some of the most powerful things in the world. Buzzing. Xiao Yan's eyes stayed on the sarcophagus surrounded by the 4 elephants and stone statues. From the airtight sarcophagus, Xiao Yan smelled a sense of unease. Even the god execution ruler, which had been quiet in his body, unexpectedly at this time, sent out a fiery wave. Xiao Yan did not know whether it was the attraction force of the divine weapon, or other fluctuations, but Xiao Yan vaguely knew that this cave was definitely a fierce place. In the entire cave, there are piles of white bones on the ground, and at least hundreds of people have fallen here. When combined with the stone statues of the 4 gods and beasts in the coffin, a touch of secret and vigilance slowly poured into Xiao Yan's heart. Here, there seems to be the aura of that monster, although it's very weak. After a while, Qinglong's beautiful eyes were slowly staring into the sarcophagus. Judging from the power of the 10 colors, Qinglong seemed to smell some hidden aura of the monster from the cave. Human, save me. The countless treasures in these 4 elephant caves are all for you. Just as Xiao Yan was looking at this place carefully, a ferocious roar suddenly came out from his sarcophagus. The momentum is like a rainbow, shocking people. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website. Continuing from the previous episode 2587. Who? This voice just appeared. The energy of heaven and earth in the whole cave became quiet, and even the power of 10 colors in Qinglong's body surged together. It seemed that the pressure this voice put on the ladder was very majestic and terrifying. As soon as the words fell, the two of them looked at the sarcophagus behind the 4 stone statues at the same time. At this time, the dim light inside the ancient sarcophagus kept flickering, but it was suppressed by the countless ancient lines on the sarcophagus. We could only vaguely see the underside of the sarcophagus, and it seemed that the detention suppressed some very powerful aura. The source of the sound is also under the sarcophagus. I am the supreme monster in the demon world, and I am also the evil blood tiger. Following Xiaoyan's gaze, an earth-shattering and terrifying low roar resounded from the sarcophagus again, and there was a hint of pride in the voice. However, no matter how the latter struggled, there were bursts of light patterns on the sarcophagus, suppressing its breath as much as possible. Hearing this guy's arrogant voice, Kai Lin and Xiaoyan looked at each other. It seemed that the situation was much better than expected, but due to this guy's terrifying strength, he decided not to reveal his strength first. Heavenly Evil Blood Tiger? What is that? In order to prevent this guy from noticing something wrong, Xiaoyan and the two suppressed their breaths at the second level of reincarnation, and then asked in a jerky voice. With the isolation of the sarcophagus, it was difficult for the latter to discover the true power of Xiaoyan and the two. Then the two of them looked at the sarcophagus in astonishment. Rescue me out. I can let you get all the inheritance and treasure in the 4 Elephants Cave. Otherwise, without my help, with the strength of the two of you at the double reincarnation level, there is only one dead end in this space. The Heavenly Evil Blood Tiger, who was suppressed in the sarcophagus, obviously did not expect that no one in the demon world would know his famous reputation, and roared again after pondering. My husband and wife entered here just to get some chance. When we entered here, we were only approached by a 3-headed snake. There was no way to disturb the senior's cultivation. We will leave now. Linner, let's go. After Xiaoyan finished speaking, he directly pulled Kaylin and walked gently outside the cave, trying to leave this space. You two, come back. I see that your attributes are violent, but your kid is cultivating the fire attribute? Looking at Xiaoyan and the two who had finally entered here and were not infected by the evil things around the cave, the voice of the evil blood tiger came from the sarcophagus again. What he cultivates is indeed the fire attribute. At this time, Kai Lin stopped slightly, and looked at the sarcophagus with a touch of 10-color power in her beautiful eyes. The caves that we passed along the way were full of evil auras of all sizes, but the aura in this cave was very sacred, and it was obviously very suitable for the cultivation of monsters. Even in the so-called 4 Elephants Cave, countless energies of heaven and earth slowly surged from the underground river and gathered towards the sarcophagus and the 4 stone statues of gods and beasts, transporting inexhaustible energy to them. Exhausted energy. The whole cave is mysterious, and there are some bones in the cave. I am afraid that the treasure in this cave has not been taken away. Senior, this space is so dangerous, this kind of thankless thing. Xiaoyan smirked, and the sound of regret rang out, and then left here with the color scales, but the brilliance of holy flames scattered little by little along the way. Do you know Schengen? Hearing Kaylin's indifferent voice, the sarcophagus was silent for a while, and then slowly spoke. Holy flame? Hearing the words of this guy in the sarcophagus, Xiaoyan's heart suddenly trembled. Could it be that there is still the existence of holy flames in this space? But the many holy flames in your body didn't feel at all? Why is this? Could it be that the mysterious suppressive aura has isolated the interaction between the holy flames? That's right, it's Saint Flame. And it's the 16th holy flame in the Great Thousand Worlds, the heavenly demon fire. The monster in the sarcophagus heard Xiaoyan's surprised voice, and immediately sneered. Obviously, this level of chips is enough to attract them to save themselves. If you can rescue me from the sarcophagus, I will tell you the whereabouts of that holy flame, and I can even help you conquer that holy flame. How about this? Isn't this a good deal? The voice in the sarcophagus sounded again. Kaylin's eyes instantly turned to Xiaoyan, waiting for Xiaoyan's move. Yep, Xiaoyan nodded, apparently also vaguely aware of the news of Schengen, but this monster seemed to be coaxing Xiaoyan and the two as servants at will, but they did not know that both of them were cold-blooded and decisive. Lord, however, the two of them didn't seem to intend to expose the nonsense of the monster, but to pretend to be confused. If I can obtain holy flame, I can definitely break through to the triple reincarnation stage. Linner, we can try. Xiaoyan's eyes lit up and he was ecstatic. Well, But Senior is so powerful, why was he suppressed here? Looking at Xiao Yan's appearance, Kai Lin couldn't help but laugh. Her eyes kept scanning everything around her, trying to find some other traces. There's a lot of nonsense. You have to do this deal, or you have to do it if you don't. Clang! A sarcastic laughter suddenly sounded from the sarcophagus, and suddenly there was a falling rock gushing out from the only exit in the cave, and the whole cave was easily closed. Above the falling stone, there are layers of ancient prisons all over the body. Without the strength of the sixth layer reincarnation, it is difficult to break. Try it. Xiao Yan shot softly, and then the spiritual power within the body surged first, and circles of patterns surged out, covering the walls of the entire cave without knowing it. There are a total of 590,000 formation patterns, and the power of such a number of formation patterns is enough to deal with the powerhouse of the quasi-sixth reincarnation rank. This is also the backhand prepared by Xiao Yan. After all, if you want to get the demon core of this monster, you naturally need to crack the suppression power and rescue it, but this guy's quasi-7th level reincarnation strength is too appalling, so he has to prepare some perfect strategies. Let's do it! If you can't crack the repressive power within a certain period of time, the air and energy in this cave will be thin, and you will be completely lost here. The bones on the ground are your lessons learned. Of course, if you can rescue me, the previous transaction will still count. Quote. Xiao Yan ignored it, but carefully observed the 4 stone statues of gods and beasts around the sarcophagus. The night pearl in the center also released a slight wave of strange fluctuations, which was obviously the key to cracking the suppression force. Let me try. After checking for a while, but did not find any flaws, Xiao Yan could only shake his head. The flame power poured out of his body, and walked towards his position little by little. But now Xiao Yan was deliberately suppressing his strength, and he didn't use holy flame, so he let the monster in the sarcophagus take it lightly. There seems to be something in this sarcophagus that makes the power of the 10-color swallowing python very eager to get it. Kaylin stood on the spot and seemed to be exploring the mystery of this cave with Xiao Yan. Strange. The fluctuations in these two people don't seem to be quite right. One of them even has a faint aura related to the demon fire? Could it be that this guy has an old relationship with the demon emperor? Is it an illusion? Even though this monster was suppressed, its keen sense of smell still found some strange situations, but now it was quietly dormant, watching Xiao Yan's every move. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website. Continuing from the previous episode 2588. After guiding Xiao Yan and the two of them, the monster in the sarcophagus went quiet. It seemed that the 3 major pressures emanating from the sarcophagus made it impossible to continue communicating with Xiao Yan. Compared with Xiao Yan, it seemed to have a feeling and disgust with Kaylin. After the show, prepare to test the power of these 4 divine beast formations. Slowly revolving the majestic power of reincarnation in his body, he saw that the hot fire attribute energy on Xiao Yan's body continued to overflow, and there was a faint volcanic eruption, but Xiao Yan's entire body was approaching the 4 divine beasts. During the formation, it stopped strangely. It seems to be blocked by an inexplicable powerful force. An icy aura of death slowly poured out from the 4 stone statues of divine beasts, as if there was some kind of unknown secret hidden in it, and it was dangerous. Otherwise, how could it be possible to imprison the monsters of the quasi-7th reincarnation class here? What's up? Kai Lin and Xiao Yan had a good heart. Seeing Xiao Yan's situation, they hurriedly retracted their gaze from scanning the cave, and stared at Xiao Yan with a solemn expression on the side. This is a formation, and it can instantly eject all my exploration and power. It seems a little weird. Xiao Yan frowned, and when he was talking, the core inscription pattern in his body always conveyed a long-lost unease. Even the voice of the monster disappeared without a trace at this time. It seems that the formation and the sarcophagus have a strong suppressing pressure, so that the monster can no longer transmit any news. Since this is the demon world, why don't you use the magic of the demon world to try? Xiao Yan's body instantly retreated. Kaylin's slender hands supported Xiao Yan and said softly. Kaylin naturally knew that Xiao Yan practiced the 3 realms of divine art, but similar to the divine art of Gongfa, each person could only concentrate on one kind of cultivation. Xiao Yan nodded. The magic of the demon world, which had been dusty in his body for a long time, was displayed by Taiyi indestructible. Although it was only the easiest way to run the divine art, an invincible green demon light lingered on Xiaoyan's arm. Xiaoyan made a decisive decision, and suddenly roared away in front of the four gods and beasts, a powerful demon light. It was filled with a terrifying power that opened up mountains and cracked rocks, and instantly contacted the void of the ladder formation. Xiaoyan held Qinglong, and his body volleyed backwards to the corner of the cave wall. The scorching flames around him sheltered the bodies of the two of them, quietly waiting for the changes in the cave. The next moment, a strange scene happened. The area where Xiaoyan could not step into the formation of the four gods and beasts was actually under the effect of the demonic magic of the demon world, and the ground trembled slightly in the void. After a while, the speed of the monster light skyrocketed. It seemed to break through the invisible confinement in the formation of the four gods and beasts, and hit the stone statues of the four gods and beasts one after another, calling for something. Night Pearl, the stone statues of the four gods and beasts. Immediately, Xiaoyan's whole body was filled with dazzling flames, but his eyes narrowed slowly, as if he suddenly sensed something. Buzz. For a while, in the entire dead silent cave, bursts of infiltrating yin wind suddenly surged, as if some ancient evil creature was slowly recovering. After the monster light hit the four stone statues of gods and beasts, it disappeared quietly, but before the four stone statues of gods and beasts, suddenly there were bursts of harsh cracking sounds, and the stones and dust kept peeling off from it, and the majestic vitality was unexpectedly it spreads out like bamboo shoots after a rain. There are four lifelike and mysterious patterns in the shadow behind the stone statue of the beast, which instantly burst into a dazzling light, overflowing with energy, filling the entire cave in an instant. At the same time, the four ancient mythical beasts that despised all living beings slowly broke free from the shackles of the stone statue, as if they had woken up from their long sleep in the ancient times, and came to life in an instant. The azure dragon divine beast looked contemptuous, waving its huge body, showing its teeth and claws, and its majestic azure aura ripped apart everything like a hurricane. The white tiger mythical beast had dignified brows, its feet were dormant on the ground, and its fierce gaze was filled with a chilling intent, as if it would strike a fatal blow on Xiaoyan at any time. The huge body of the Xuanwu divine beast was lying on the ground, and a thick yellow aura permeated out, such a terrifying defensive power. I am afraid that ordinary 5-layer reincarnation-level powerhouses are difficult to break. Suzaku dances gracefully, as if performing some kind of sacrifice. The four mythical beasts each have their own unique movements, and all of them exude a dazzling light on their bodies, and an unprecedented crisis suddenly permeates them. Is this an absolute formation? At this moment, Qinglong's arm was slightly cold, and there was a wicked look in his eyes, and the power of 10 colors flowed slightly on his delicate body, which was beautiful. The so-called absolute formations are just some powerful formations, and there is no way to crack them. If they can be cracked, they are not considered absolute formations. Xiaoyan's complexion changed drastically. He raised his head slightly to think. Danger and opportunity always go together. The strength of the four divine beasts is almost spread around the 5th-layer reincarnation order, and it is not easy to defeat them. Thinking of it this way, I'm afraid I can only outsmart it. The formation center. Why is there a night pearl? This thing seems to ignore the attacks of many powers, and it is constantly shining. It seems to have endless power. Is this the source of the power hub? Xiaoyan stared at the figures of the four divine beasts, and then slowly looked at Yi Mingzu, who was sheltered in the center by the four divine beasts. These four mythical beasts are not the body, but more like a kind of energy embodied. However, the four divine beasts can be protected and suppressed. Is there any precious treasure in this cave? Qinglong, help me stop the four divine beasts for 1 minute. After Xiaoyan finished speaking, the power in his body dissipated instantly. Without any power on his body, he quietly walked towards the area shrouded in the formation of the four divine beasts. The power of Medusa. Qinglong snorted, and behind him was actually a colorful snake shadow from ancient times dormant. Between the snake letter, it seemed that there was a violent poisonous mist gushing out the power of the colorful swallowing python. Early it has been integrated by the color scales. Tear. For a while, Qinglong turned out to be four divine beasts fighting each other. Night Pearl. This is the formation hub. Where is the core? With the help of Qinglong's cover, Xiao Yan instantly bypassed the 4 divine beasts and entered the formation. With the palm of his hand quietly holding this round bead the size of a dragon's eye, the core inscription pattern in Xiao Yan's body suddenly burst into an unprecedented excitement. Snoring. Looking at the bead in his hand, Xiao Yan gently swallowed the saliva downstairs and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. The core inscription pattern, the power of the formation. Break it for me. In an instant, Xiao Yan's majestic cold hum, accompanied by a profound spiritual force, was injected into the night pearl. Some of the wills and patterns left in the night pearl were quickly erased by Xiao Yan at this time, and even the silhouettes of the 4 divine beasts became stiff at this time. Boom! A violent energy ripple suddenly spread out from the center of the formation, resounding throughout the cave, forming a monstrous echo, shocking people. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website. Continuing from the previous episode 2589. Following Xiao Yan's actions, the 4 lifelike divine beasts actually petrified again. The whole body became quiet in an instant, and the whole cave returned to dead silence again, as if everything here had never recovered. What is this? As soon as the crisis came into contact, Kalen's beautiful eyes were full of doubts, and then looking at the 4 stone statues of divine beasts and the bright beads in Xiao Yan's hand, he couldn't help but say. The vicious attack of that level just now, even if it was handled with the power of the colorful scales and 9 colored swallowing pythons, was very difficult, but now it was easily resolved by Xiao Yan. As far as the eyes go, there is always a faint pressure on the bead, which makes people feel jealous. Even the power of the 9-colored sky swallowing python that Kalen had already controlled in his body could smell a moving wave. If my guess is correct, this should be a strange orb transformed by a scroll of array diagrams. When unfolded, it can trigger the formation of the 4 gods and beasts, which can be used to trap a single powerhouse. Although I can't now completely control it, but it should not be a problem to urge it to trap some ordinary 6-layer reincarnation level powerhouses. There was a faint smile on Xiao Yan's face, and almost subconsciously, he noticed the abnormality and mystery of this night pearl. With the power of the formation pattern, he condenses into such a dragon's eye-sized pattern bead. With such courage and strength, I am afraid that the opponent is at least a strong man who can condense and control 700,000 formation patterns. Unexpectedly, in such a strange place as the 4 Elephants' Cave, there will be an ancient formation, which can be considered a blessing in disguise, but if Xiao Yan did not cultivate the spiritual strength and the strength of the fighting formation master, the coercion of the 4 divine beast formation just now, it is enough to make them fall into trouble, and even the final end is the same as those of the strong who have turned into bones. The formation has been lifted. The next step is the most important step. Just after finishing speaking, the 2 of them bypassed the 4 gods beast formation directly and came to the sarcophagus near the cave wall. Big kill. Inside the sarcophagus in front of him, there is a heavenly evil blood tiger, a peerless beast whose strength reaches the quasi-7th reincarnation level. It is also the key to solving the 10-color power in Kalen's body during this trip. The 9-colored swallowing python and the 10-colored swallowing python seem to have only 1 color difference between them, but the difference is like a gulf. One is a strong Do Emperor, and the other is even close to the supreme realm of Do God, almost comparable to the terrifying power of Fenju cultivation technique. I have already left a lot of means in the cave. Even if this guy completely breaks free, he can deal with it. Let's start. Soul power, spiritual power, including holy flame power, were now spread throughout the entire cave by Xiao Yan, and they were quite sure about this, and only then did the 2 set their sights on the sarcophagus. This sarcophagus is completely different from any coffin that Xiao Yan has seen before. The sarcophagus was square, with a permeating gleam lingering all over the body. Just staring at it like this, the mind couldn't help but sway. On the lid of the sarcophagus, there were even mysterious lines that resembled the silhouettes of monsters, which suddenly covered the entire sarcophagus. Under those tiny silhouettes of monsters, it seemed that all power became weak. What kind of power is this? You can actually ignore my holy flame? Suddenly, when Xiao Yan tilted his holy flame on the sarcophagus, trying to break through the most mysterious restriction, a strange scene appeared. Xiao Yan's body was dominated by orange flames, accompanied by 6 other weak flames. The flames just approached the sarcophagus, but they were like moths fighting the flames, instantly disappearing and disappearing. Even such a terrifying holy flame, without causing any fluctuations, disappeared strangely and annihilated it. Ignore. It's not ignoring. To be precise, the holy flame you released was absorbed by this sarcophagus. Kai Lin was also slightly surprised, and her insensitive eyes seemed to have caught some subtle traces from it. Destroyed? In this world, what else can devour the power of holy flame? Hearing Kaylin's words, Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a tingling sensation on his scalp. The 6 kinds of holy flames are combined with the power of the 3rd holy flame. Even some real 7-layer reincarnation-level powerhouses may not be able to absorb them so smoothly, right? Try again. Kai Lin nibbled his silver teeth lightly, and then his wrist quietly rested on Xiao Yan's sleeve. A dizziness of 9 colors quietly poured into Xiao Yan's body. Shush. The palm of his hand was wrapped in the power of flame and the 9-colored aura of the colored scales, but this time there was no mutation. Xiao Yan's palm directly touched the sarcophagus. When his palm lightly touched the sarcophagus, an unusually sharp cold was transmitted from the skin of his arm. The monstrous, domineering, terrifying fluctuations almost gushed out from the sarcophagus below, penetrating continuously into Xiao Yan's palm, a heart-piercing pain that actually caused Xiao Yan's complexion to change dramatically. The trick of the heavenly evil blood tiger? Xiao Yan abruptly withdrew his hand, and his entire body was shot backwards completely, but his body was trembling because of this, and his eyes could not help but watch the sarcophagus with great vigilance. This sarcophagus seems to repel the power in you. Let me try it. After 2 shots, Kaylin seemed to be sure of something. The delicate body was surging, and she walked quietly with lotus steps, and on her icy and jade-clean wrist, a touch of 9-color brilliance was looming. Careful. Xiao Yan shook his head, but as soon as he finished speaking, the entire cave shook violently. Clang! With a bang, when the power of 9 colors on Kaylin's wrist approached the sarcophagus, the lid of the sarcophagus seemed to be summoned and stabbed in an instant, and it slowly loosened. After a while, the harsh sound of rubbing stones slowly emerged. And the lid of the sarcophagus, which had been tightly closed, was also slowly loosening, and in the weak gaps, there were beams of monstrous beams refracting into the sky. A terrifying aura that dominates the world, like a beast descending, slowly shook Xiao Yan and the 2. The quasi-7th level reincarnation order, the evil blood tiger. Xiao Yan held Kaylin in his arms, and then countless powers surged around him, as if he was building some extremely terrifying power. Ha ha ha! This king finally sees the sun again. Damn guy, this time, this king will definitely not repeat the same mistakes. From the gap of the coffin lid, the soaring demon light gushed out, and there was a human-like black figure standing in it, and the mad laughing and hideous voice resounded endlessly. At the same time, Xiao Yan's body has always been quiet, but when the crack in the sarcophagus lid continued to expand, he slowly released a sense of tremor. That kind of feeling, not because of fear of the terrifying power of this monster, but rather similar to encountering some evenly matched forces. And this kind of fluctuation seems to be getting more and more manic as the crack of the coffin lid expands. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website.